Hi everyone, and welcome to STEAM Time. My name is Dayna. I'm the Buena Vista Branch Manager with Monterey County Free Libraries. Today we're going to be talking all about winter. Today we're going to be making crystal snowflakes. And the science behind it, we're going to be doing snowflakes two ways. We're going to make them with salt and with borax. And then we'll do a comparison of what made better snowflake crystals. So stay tuned and I'll walk you through what you're going to need to get started. Before we get started making our crystal snowflakes, I do want to put a disclaimer on this video. Make sure when you are making your snowflake and conducting this experiment, make sure you have an adult with you. So to get started, you are going to want 2 glass jars, borax, if you're doing this version in the video, pipe cleaners, and you want the chenille fuzzy pipe cleaners, a type of string or yarn, salt, if you are doing the salt version along with me. You're going to want a measuring spoon, something to stir your mixture together with, and then to secure your snowflake on top of the jar, I just used a pen and some string. So now let's jump into how we create the snowflake. Before we get started, I am going to be using boiling water for this part of our experiment. I have an electric kettle that I have heated up, but make sure if you are going the route of using boiled water, definitely have an adult nearby to help you with this. As an alternative, you can use tap water. So just turn your faucet on, let it run until it gets hot, and you can use that instead of boiling water. Boiling water will dissolve the salt and the borax a little bit faster than if you use tap water. So it's up to you, but definitely have an adult nearby to help you with this. So like we always do with STEAM Time, let's talk a little bit about the science and the chemistry that's happening when we mix either our salt solution or our borax solution. We have some reactions or changes taking place when we combine them together. So let's talk a little bit first about the science behind salt crystal snowflakes. What's happening is we are creating a chemical reaction between the water, the boiling water, and the salt. So as our salt solution in our jar, once we make it, begins to cool, the water is going to evaporate the atoms. So that's our sodium and chlorine. That's going to start evaporating out of our jar. And that's no longer going to be separated by water molecules. Instead, they're going to start to form together, stick together. And then once they continue sticking together, they're going to create a square or cube shaped crystal. If you have ever looked at a salt crystal under a microscope, you'll see that they have a cube shape to them. There is also a chemical change or reaction that takes place when we mix borax and boiling water in our jar. So that is going to be a different version. So water, of course, is made up of molecules. So when we heat our water or boil our water, those molecules start to move away from each other. It's almost as if they're repelling one another. And the opposite of that, when you freeze water, when water gets really cold, they come together. They start to stick together, those molecules. So when we boil our water or get our water really hot, that allows for the borax that we're using to dissolve more quickly into our jar, into our hot water. And that's going to help create our solution. The boiling water dissolves the borax at a faster rate. Now, before we get started, big question I'm going to ask everybody. Which solution, the salt or the borax, take a minute to think about it, what solution do you think is going to make a better crystal snowflake? Take your guess right now, I'll give you a second. And then we're gonna test that theory. First things first, I would suggest creating your chenille snowflake. So, take a regular pipe cleaner and you're just going to cut it into thirds. I made 2 snowflakes because I'm going to be comparing the salt version with the borax. If you're doing both solutions, you're going to need 2 snowflakes. And here are the ones I've created. And to get them to stay in the snowflake shape, you're going to hold the 3 pieces together and then just start twisting them. And one important thing to remember, when you are making your snowflake, you want to make it a size that is going to fit in your jar through the opening and also not touch the sides of the jar when it's inside in your solution. So like this. It should float freely. Another thing that I did already, I went ahead and I tied my snowflakes onto pens. Could be pencils, anything you have. I like this because I'll show you. If it's too long, once you tie it to the top of your pen and you realize, uh-oh, if I sit it on top, it's sinking to the bottom, take your pen or pencil, just start turning it like this until you get it to the height that's going to work. So now that I have my 2 snowflakes ready to go, let's start mixing our solution. I'm not going to be measuring mine exactly, but if you would like to add in your math component, which is the M in STEAM, feel free to measure. I'm using 32-ounce mason jars for this, and for every cup of water, which is 8 ounces, you will need 3 tablespoons of borax salt. This one's a little bit more forgiving. You can fill up your mason jar however full you want it, and I've heard it recommended on the websites that I researched. Some people dumped the entire container. They said to wait till you see the salt start to crystallize at the top. So again, because it's STEAM time and we're all about science, play around with the measurements and see if that changes the outcome. So let's get started first. Let's do our borax one. I'm going to fill my mason jar with hot water. Be very careful. Okay, I'm gonna fill it to about there. That's about 2.5 cups, probably closer to 3. And now I'm gonna add in my borax powder. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna do 8. 7 and 8. Now, you're going to want to stir quickly, so get that combined, stir, 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 get that all together. Perfect. It's gonna look cloudy at first. That's okay. And go ahead and add in your snowflake. Just like that. And it will start to clear up. The borax one does start to turn clear, whereas you'll notice when I do the salt one, it actually stays cloudy. So let me go ahead and add my water into my next jar. So for this one, I'm just gonna eyeball it. You can measure it out in tablespoons if you want, but I'm just gonna start pouring in my salt. I'm gonna use quite a bit. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, now I'm gonna stir quick. Quick, 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 get it dissolved. Perfect. I'm gonna let mine, because I don't have as much water, I'm gonna let mine kind of just soak. And you can add more water to cover it more, of course. So now I have my 2 snowflakes in my different solutions. Now, this experiment, and takes some patience, you will notice with the borax snowflake, I observed after about an hour, hour and a half, little crystals started to form, both on the bottom of my jar and on the pipe cleaner. The salt version does take much longer. So this is not a instant gratification one. This one, you're going to have to check on it throughout the day. And then tomorrow, take a look and see what you have. Borax takes about 8 to 24 hours. Salt, depending on how much salt you poured into your jar, can take 2 to 3 days, sometimes sooner. So definitely play around with the amounts that you put in your jar and check on it throughout the day and record your findings. For the sake of this video, I have made ones already that have been sitting for over 24 hours. So let's take a look and see what we have. It has been over 24 hours and my crystal snowflakes, I'm going to pull them out so you can see the difference after a little bit more than 24 hours. We have our borax snowflake, which is green, and my salt version, which is blue. If you can tell already, the green one has already started to form crystals all around the jar and all over the pipe cleaner. The salt one looks almost the exact way that it did when I submerged it 24 hours ago. So let's lift and do our big reveal. Are we ready on the count of 3? 1, 2, 3. What do we have? So I'm gonna pull them up. And as you can see, the green one, which is borax, is already covered in crystals. Now, do not give up on your salt mixture. I did not have mine in long enough. Keep it for 2 to 3 days. Also, when you start the experiment, add a lot more salt. I undersalted mine, so definitely try adding a full container if you can to your hot water and see how that changes the experiment. So let's take a look. They turned out so pretty, this one. Definitely you could dry it and hang it somewhere in your house. I'm excited. The borax one definitely worked much faster than the salt, but the salt should work eventually too with a little bit more time. Well, thank you so much everybody for joining me for today's Steam Time, all about bringing winter inside your home by making your very own crystal snowflakes. I hope to see everybody next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.